I'm Jennifer Kleut, author of the thriller The Better Mother, and welcome to One Final Twist.
All right, today on One Final Twist, we're joined by author Jennifer Kloet, whose novel, The Better Mother, dives headfirst into a very complicated, messy, and often the unspoken realities of motherhood, identity, judgment. Oh, the drama. Sherry and I had the opportunity to meet Jennifer in BoucherCon this year in New Orleans. We were in a chat first, but then we got to meet her. So when the opportunity came to read this book, we jumped on it, and now we get to do the interview before um, the book comes out, which I think is February the 18th. Am I right? Is it?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, it's February the 18th. We are
Ten.
here to ask all the questions, get distracted, maybe laugh, but try and stay in at least one of three lanes, and find out what's about this book, what's next on your writing journey, and all of the good tea. So before we go headfirst into the questions, kind of give readers who haven't read or even seen the blurb yet what The Better Mother is about.
What? Our main character is Savannah Mitchell. She's 34 years old, and she has broken up with a man that she gave many years of her life to. They had agreed they were going to have children at a certain point, and then when that time came, he changed his mind. So she's pretty devastated and kind of lets her whole life fall apart. And it's about a year later, she's finally feeling like she's starting to get her life back on track and decides to put herself out there and has a short, casual fling with a man named Max. But they're neither of them are looking for anything serious, so it fizzles out after a while. And then they haven't spoken in weeks when she finds out she's pregnant. And her best friend convinces her that the right thing to do is to get in touch and tell him. So she does, only to find out that he's just gotten back together with his ex-girlfriend, Madison. So he says he wants to be honest with her. So he tells Madison about this unexpected pregnancy. And surprisingly, she's not super angry. In fact, she's like, we should do the right thing. We should help her. And at first, she seems really nice and helpful. But after a while, that helpfulness starts to turn into really crossing the boundaries. She's over involved, almost trying to take control of the pregnancy. And it becomes very clear that she has ulterior motives and things get quite messy.
So, where did the idea for this book come from? Because as I'm reading it, I'm like, this is like out of the world of what normal, rational people would do.
That is so funny that you say that because and that's something that a lot of reviewers have been saying as well. Like, oh, it's you gotta suspend disbelief, and but the funny thing is, it's all inspired by a what I believe is a real story. One of my guilty pleasures is reading the Reddit thread, Am I the Asshole? If you've heard of it. So much drama. And I love to say that like nothing is crazier than real life, right? So I came across this post one day about a woman who's in a similar situation. She says, am I being the asshole here, or am I justified in thinking that the father of she's having twins, by the way. The father that she had a short fling with, he's since gotten back together and married his ex-girlfriend. And she has just gone completely off the deep end, trying to take control of the pregnancy. She announces on social media that they're having a baby, doesn't mention anything about the real mother, throws herself a baby shower, even comes up with names. And as the mother starts pushing back more and more, she starts getting increasingly deranged. And I was like, oh my God, that would make the best thriller. And so I just kind of took it from there. I came up with characters and backstories and tried to imagine like what might drive a person to do something like this. And it's funny because it was really important to me that everything in the book actually be possible. Like it really could happen. It may not be likely to happen, but it's physically possible. And I think about that mother a lot and wonder what happened. She did a couple follow-ups where people convinced her, get a lawyer. They said if you move out of state, they'll have less legal recourse. Like people are giving her all sorts of advice, and it's the last thing she posted was that she did move out of state and managed to get a restraining order, but never know what happened after that. So
I get frustrated as a reader when I see reviews come in like, is this possible or whatever. Like I don't, if I'm gonna read something to that I need to believe, like plot holes are one thing, but like I can suspend belief like that, or I'm gonna read nonfiction. I want to fall into that story and enjoy
yeah.
it and be like to be part of it. I don't I don't know. I don't know. For me, it's frustrating. I can't, how do you feel about it when you see things like that?
It hasn't really been that many people, but I think I have like 100 reviews so far, and most people are like you. They're just like, just fall into it, and it will take you away, and just they get caught up in the story, and their anxiety starts raising, and that's what I want it to do. I want it to just be like you're entertained and you're not thinking about anything else. It just sucks you in. That's what I'm hoping for.
And really need to throw a couple throat punches. I'm not gonna lie. I felt
Yeah.
It's so funny how many people are saying that. That's great. They're like, I've never hated a character more than Madison or something like that.
Yeah, it's one of those things like you're like, no way can this happen in real life, but yet it does. I mean, anything can happen in real life, and you're like, and so you kind of, at least me, I found myself putting myself in the character's shoes, both women, and trying to figure out like what would I do, what would my thought process be, and why I'd be acting like this, and it just is, it's just such an amazing story.
Oh, thank you. Yeah,
when
she's a very spoiled girl, comes from a very wealthy family. She's basically never been told no in her life, and her mother feeds that delusion, and that's what happens when there's no one there to rein you in.
when you were writing, was there any edges that you like, did you push any boundaries and have to come back and say, okay, now I can't, go there. That's too much. It's too over the top, or that makes me uncomfortable. Were there any boundaries that you pushed for yourself or that, I mean, parts that you had to rein back in?
Yeah, there is a scene in the book where Savannah goes to a nightclub with her girlfriends. It's her college girlfriend's bachelorette party, and she knows she can't drink, but she's like, I'm still gonna go and have a good time. And then there's a super creepy guy that comes up on her, and that part I had to push myself to just like make him as gross as possible because uh, and we all know there are creeps out there like that. So yeah, that part I tried to push myself to make him super gross. And as odd as it sounds, it feels good when people like tell me that part made them want to throw up a mouth. I'm like, good. That's what I was going for.
So
Were,
this is your debut book. How was it writing a debut book?
Um, I've read so many millions of books in my life that writing it almost felt like reading. It was just like I channeled like every thriller I'd ever read, and the format came pretty easily to me, which was nice. And I read a lot of different books too. I even though thrillers are always my favorite, I like to read romance, I like to read historical fiction, all that stuff. So it was fun. It was my problem is that I tend to be long-winded. The first version of this book was, I don't know, 450 pages, like 125,000 words or something. And I like to dive into the characters' heads and like their backstories so much that I end up just like saying way too much. Like I like to joke that in the first draft there was like a whole chapter about Savannah debating whether or not she should get a dog because she's going to have a baby soon, and like just the whole thought process on that. And going back and editing, I'm like, okay, yeah, that's not important to um but yeah, it was really fun. And that's, I think that's when you know you've got an idea that's worth it, is when like instantly you can just picture the beginning, the middle, the end, where they come from, where they're going, how it ratchets up every chapter. And so I think I instantly knew that this was an idea worth exploring.
I like when a book, and this is one of them, that I might pay. I literally can feel my eyes wearing, like I've got to read faster. How much, like as the tension ratchets up, as you're starting to hit that climax, like I need to read faster. I need to get it in my brain. I can't even breathe. It's, I
Yeah,
think it's
sometimes I
serious.
literally have to like cover the bottom of the page with my hand to like force myself not to skip ahead because I have to know so badly what's going to happen.
Yeah, that's about how this was. I mean, you really need the anxiety, like it gets in your person.
I hope so. I hope people have fun with it.
Do you have, I know this is your debut, and I'm going, why does my thing zoom in and out like that? I got to quit moving. Um, do you have one of those in the bottom drawer of your desk books? Like, or was The Better Mother really like, this is the beginning, this is, and it happened? Or do you have like that secret one that's going to lay around for 10 years?
No, and that's the funny thing is I talk to so many authors that are like, oh yeah, I had 6 books die, before I finally sold number 7. And um, it's crazy. This is honestly the first book I ever wrote from start to finish. I did start another book before this one, but it was just way too crazy. I like have too many ideas sometimes and I want to fit them all into one book and they just don't all fit into one book. It was I say it was kind of like an Ellen Hildebrand book meets White Lotus. Like I wanted to have the whole tropical setting of the beach and all these people coming to try to like have a vacation and escape, but then something crazy happens and you get into the thriller part of it. And I had 5 characters and it was like different chapters are from different points of view. And I went to this writing workshop when I was about like a third of the way through the book, and they were like, you're writing 5 books, you're not writing one book. And I realized, and I'm like, yeah, I'm too long-winded, and there's just it really was like I was writing 5 books in one. And so I said, well, I have this other idea, and I told them about the Better Mother, the Reddit post that inspired it and how I thought it would make a great book. And they're like, that sounds amazing. They're like, do that. And that's more straightforward. You've got a protagonist, you've got a villain, and one path. And once I once they helped me like focus a little more, um, then it became really quickly. It only took me 5 months to write it, although it took me like a year to keep rewriting it and rewriting it until I felt it was good enough to start sending out to literary agents. But yeah, it's crazy. It really is the first book I ever finished.
That is so impressive. I'm
Yeah.
and I'm glad that this book was the one that came out, because I've talked to a lot of authors, and yeah, it's the same thing as far as this isn't their first book. They have, they've had tried many times before, and just never made it. And then to have this be your first one, that's amazing. Hopefully that's a good sign of what's to come after this one.
I hope so. It it's funny, like I feel like it's making me super paranoid. Like I'm so grateful all the good reviews that it's getting so far, but at the same time that makes me super paranoid that like I'll never write anything good ever again. Like that was my one shot and I shot it. And um yeah. And I was talking to somebody else about this the other day, like having been a journalist first before a writer, I'm used to all the all the negative feedback just being thrown at you all the time. Like because I wrote for a lot of digital news websites, and they have, the comments. And so every article you write, there's just like a ton of comments. And it's usually not from people that like it. It's the people that like it usually don't tell you, they don't take the time. But the people who don't like it, they will tell you over and over again.
Mhm.
Um, I remember this one time I was stupid and I Googled my name and I found this it's kind of like a Reddit. It's like, but it's local thread, and there was a whole website called Fuck Jennifer Vanderkloot, and just all these people that hated me.
Ow.
These things they wrote about me. And I was like, okay. So I don't know, maybe that helped. I'm used to, I mean, yeah, it still bothers me, but I'm used to getting instant feedback and having most of it be bad. So I feel like I'm just about finished with a second book now, and I've showed it to my agent and she's like, it's great. And then I showed it to a couple beta readers who are other authors that they're called agent siblings. We all have the same agent, and so we're kind of like a family. And I showed it to them and they're like, it's great. And I'm just like, you're lying. I'm like, if you can't tell me at least one bad thing, then you're just blowing smoke up my ass. Tell me what's wrong with it, and then I'll believe you. So
I
it's
had
making me super paranoid. But
What did you report? What did you write in that people wanted to be so mean?
it was right after I first moved to Virginia. And see, I come from California, which is a very blue state. You'd be hard pressed to find a Republican anywhere in in my area of California. And I came here, and it was really a culture shock. Here being, I'm in Northern Virginia, just outside of DC, so kind of like politics central, and it's very divided here, very half blue, half red. And anytime I wrote anything, even though I'm like, literally, I went here, this person said this, and this person said this, and that was it. No subjective anywhere in there. Um, it didn't matter. People assumed, like, oh, well, the only reason you're saying that is because you're a Republican or you're a Democrat. And one time I covered this gun control event, and wow, yeah, I think that's what inspired the website.
Politics can turn the nicest person into a wild person.
It's crazy. Yeah, that's why I'm not in journalism anymore.
That was my next question. Are you still doing that, or have you got to step out from that now?
Oh yeah, I had to, and um, actually, this is a kind of an idea that I'm exploring a lot in my next book. My next book, should it be eventually published, is about a celebrity reporter who gets ton of bad backlash from readers. She reports the wrong thing about the wrong celebrity, and people come after her. And the one of the main reasons why I left is because, I mean, even the saddest, most tragic thing you might have to cover, like one time I covered a story about a teenager who'd been hit by a car and killed on her way riding her bike to school, and the pressure to just sensationalize it and, like, come up with new stories, new angles every day, and talk to people who are really sad, and just it just left me feeling so icky. And um, the father of the girl who died called me and begged me to take all the stories down because he didn't like reading about his daughter's death in the news. And I was like, oh my God, I feel so bad, but I'm like, I can't. First of all, I don't even have the power to take them down. And second, I'm like, I can ask, but they'll never do it. It's news. People need to know that this happened. If anything, it draws attention to, like, how dangerous that intersection was. And he just screamed at me and wanted to kill me and cursed me and my whole family, and just saying what a horrible person I was. And I was just like, I cannot take this anymore. And I couldn't say that I disagreed with him. Like, I think it's important that people know what happened, but the pressure to sensationalize it just left me feeling icky. So I'd much rather write about fictional killers and deaths, stuff like that.
Yeah, that'd be tough because you're just doing your job, but yet there's, a human element to that too. And yeah, I mean, stories that are sensationalized on the news get viewers, get readers. So of course, the media companies want that, but then there's people behind it too. So yeah, that'd be really hard.
Yeah. And the other thing too is fiction is teaching me to be a more patient person. As a digital news reporter, it was always such a huge competition. Like you got to write it in 20 seconds and slap it up there so we can be the first and, beat all the competition. So that, most of the time it leads you to writing things that like you don't even proofread, you don't even double check, you got to slap them up there and be the first. And fiction is so the opposite of that. Like everything in the publishing industry moves so slowly that in the beginning it was just absolutely maddening to me. um, so, but I appreciate the way it teaches me to like not be in such a rush and go back and check my work and, step away from it for a few days and come back to it and reread it. And those were all things that I never got the time to do in digital news. So, yeah, it's a whole different world.
Are there any other big changes that you've noticed going from the digital publishing to publishing a book that have surprised you?
Um, I mean, the style of writing is so different. In journalism, it's nothing but the facts, and you have to assume that people have a super short attention span. So you have to write short and sweet, and start with like the inverted triangle. Start with the biggest summary, and then get down into the tiny details the farther you go, not knowing if people will even read that far. And fiction is more, especially writing thrillers, it's like you gotta tease the suspense and make it feel eerie and not just like throw everything all at once. Get in people's heads and draw it out and tease it and leave clues and things like that. So yeah, as a writing style, it's definitely completely different.
Well, you have some pretty crazy characters in these two ladies. Um, but it's also real world in the fact that they're asking themselves or doing things that they think are right or questioning themselves saying, is this normal? Is this okay? And how do you think that relates to real world? I mean, because women especially, we compare ourselves to anything and everything. And it's not necessarily a good thing to do that. Sometimes it can be because you question is something right and then it's not. But how did that fit into your book?
Yeah, the two characters of Savannah and Madison are so different. Savannah is our protagonist, and Madison is our villain. Um, and I think that's why I crafted the whole backstory of Savannah. She was with a man for 4 years. They were in love. They thought they were going to spend the rest of their lives together. They said, "Oh, once we hit this career milestone and this milestone, then we'll be ready to have a baby." And they finally hit that milestone, and then he changes his mind. So she's devastated. And, you know, whenever we go through a breakup, you always question yourself, like, what's wrong with me? Why didn't he want to be with me? Why didn't he want to have a child with me? What's wrong with me? Am I ever going to find love again? Am I just unlovable? All those questions that we ask ourselves when we break up. And that it really just broke her down and shattered her. And that's why she was in such a delicate place when Madison comes at her. And some of the other reviews that I've gotten getting, it's not a word. Some of the other reviews that I've gotten are like, oh, Savannah was so frustrating to me. Like, why did she let them push her around for as long as she did before she finally decides to stand up for herself and start doing something about it? And they're like, I would never be like that. And it got turned down by a bunch of publishing houses because of that. They're like, I just couldn't get on board with Savannah and where she's coming from and how she was so weak. And I'm like, well, that's why she makes such a good target for someone like Madison, is because she's weak, she's vulnerable, she's already at the lowest point in her life, and you're just coming at her and kicking her, and it's almost like she wants to give up, and it's her child inside her that is the one thing that makes her not want to give up. Like any other person would probably give up, but she's like, I've got to protect my child. And then Madison, writing villains is just so fun. um, it's always fascinating to me to stop and think, like, what would make somebody feel justified doing all of these things? Like, there are so many people out there that do so many horrible things, and you got to think, but there's something that's making them think that it's okay, and that they want to do it, and that they think they'll get away with it. And so that was really fun, writing Madison and her whole backstory and what makes her think that she would be a better mother than Savannah when it's not even her child. So that was super fun, and I hope people have fun reading that.
So you mentioned earlier about feeling pressure for your sophomore book. Um, can you kind of tell us what inspired this next story and a little bit about what's coming down the pike for us?
Yeah. So in the book that I'm working on right now, our main character is Billy. She is a celebrity reporter. So, and I've made up this fictional publication called Celebrity, but spelled like TEA because she spills the T. And
I like that.
so it's kind of like a TMZ page six kind of publication, and she's like the top of her field. She just somehow always manages to get the scoops that nobody else gets. Catching this director, making out with the star of his latest film on the set, and everybody's like, how are you even there? How did you see this happening? And so she's kind of like the queen of disguises and just kind of slips into society everywhere she goes and gets these crazy scoops. And so one day she gets a really crazy one. And I don't want to spoil it, but she posts the photos without asking her editor's permission. Um, and depending on, like, in real life, depending on what kind of publication you work for, sometimes you have the green light to, if you're an editor, to just, okay, yeah, I wrote it up, but I'm gonna post it. I don't have to show it to anybody, which is another thing that's kind of scary. There's such a rush to get stuff out there that most of the time you're writing it and you're posting it, and like nobody's ever even set eyes on it, no other person, to like make sure, okay, did you double check this fact? Did you double check that? So she actually is not supposed to post things without her editor's permission, but she does because it's like 3 a.m. and she's impatient, and she wants to get out there and she wants to be the top. And she knows that if she runs it by her boss first, he's gonna say, okay, slow down. Let's try to get comments from this side and this side, and we got to run it by this, and we got to show it to the lawyers. And she's just like, fuck that. And I want to be the best. And she posts it, and there's a huge backlash. And kind of like it, a lot of them are inspired by stories from my journalist career where kind of like pushback that I got from readers because I posted this or that, and how she feels the pressure to sensationalize something, and she ends up revealing a really big secret from one of the world's most beloved movie stars. And so all his fans, there's a huge backlash. She starts getting death threats, and somebody, I won't say who, somebody ends up dead, and she kind of goes on this quest to figure out how and why they died, and it kind of becomes her reckoning. Like she actually does start to feel really bad about what she did, and she's like, this is how I'm gonna make up for it, sort of. So yeah, I hope people find it a juicy story. But it was kind of fun to inspire some of it by my days as a reporter.
Do you have a timeline? Like, do you know when
Oh
you're
no. And for all I know that maybe this book will never see the light of day. Um, I have an option with Crooked Lane. So shortly after The Better Mother comes out on February 10th, I will show this to them and they have first look and I think they have, I can't remember my contract of like 3 months or something to like decide if they want it. But even if they do, I don't have to go with them. I can send it out wide if I want. But so we'll see. They always say like they want to see at least a little bit of sales of your last book before they decide to buy your next one. So fingers crossed.
And this book has gotten a lot of great publicity. I mean, from early reviewers, it had a massive cover reveal. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, that was the single craziest email I think I've ever received in my life was I had literally just started working with this publicist and like the first thing they do, they send me this email that says like, by the way, People magazine wants to reveal your cover. And I was like, am I dreaming? Am I hallucinating right now? Like that's not possible. um I grew up reading People magazine. Like my mom subscribed to it and I used to just, grab it from her and read it all the time and it was just absolutely crazy and it's so cool. Like you post stuff on Facebook or Instagram all the time and like, oh yeah, you get some likes, you get some comments, but it was like people I haven't spoken to in like 30 years writing me and saying how cool it is. And so it was amazing. Never, something I never thought I would see, at least not with the first one anyway.
is there something that surprised you through this, like with the social media and the BoucherCon and the networking and all of that? Is there maybe something that surprised you or what you would tell an up and coming author to do, give them some advice to?
Um, yeah, I'm definitely surprised at what a great reception it's been getting on Bookstagram and other places. It's just so surprising to me. People like you. I met you at BoucherCon and you were so nice and I didn't even have a book out yet and I was just kind of like tagging along and I just wanted to see what BoucherCon was like when I signed up to go because I was like I don't have a book out yet, but I'm like I love books and looking at the list of authors that were going to be there like Kara Ruda and Liv Constantine and all the awesome people that were there. I was just like, I want to go geek out over my favorite authors, but I would strike up so many great conversations with people and then they start asking about your book and it's great and people like you were like, let's keep in touch. I want to know when your book comes out and it's been so nice. And honestly, like, I don't know if that's a strategy, but that's sort of been my strategy. Like, I'm just gonna be real and like, geek out over books and support other authors and books that I like. And then, when it comes time to tell people about my book, it's so neat to see how many people are receptive to it because, they remember all these great conversations they've had with you and it's just organic kind of. So that's like I said, I don't know if that's a strategy, but that's just how I've been coming at it.
Are you going to Calgary or what book conferences and things are you planning on going to so that we can come and geek out over you now?
Oh, that would be fun. Yeah, actually, barely 2 weeks after my book comes out, I'm going to Left Coast Crime in San Francisco next month. And that's where I grew up, and that's where the book takes place. So I'm excited for that to be one of the big areas that I put it out. And let's see what else. And then I'm signed up for Malice Domestic out here in my neck of the woods in the DC area in April. And then I'm going to Thriller Fest in May, which I am so excited about. Last year, I remember I was like right in the point where we were doing copy edits and proofreading for The Better Mother. And I didn't go to Thriller Fest, but then I started seeing all the pictures of it on Instagram. And I was like, oh my God, that looks like so much fun. I'm like, I can't wait till I get to go to Thriller Fest with my book. So I'm super excited for that. And then, yeah, hopefully going to Calgary in October.
Well, I will see you at Left Coast Crime next month, and I can't
Ooh,
wait.
oh, awesome. It's
Yeah.
going to be so much fun.
Yeah, it's a really great book convention. I mean, I don't think I've ever been to a bad one, but yeah, I'd say that's definitely one of my top ones.
VoucherCon was a blast. I had so
Yes.
much fun. I wanted to sleep for like 2 weeks when I got home because it's just one fun thing after another. Um, it was so much fun, whether you have a book out or not. Just go meet people. You learn stuff from all the panels that you go to, and you just get to meet so many book lovers and so many authors that are just and how many times can you say like I was in a jazz parade marching down the middle of the street with Lisa Jewell, and just this amazing band, and it was so much fun.
So you mentioned earlier that you grew up reading in all the genres, but is there like a book that's like a "Psst, don't tell anybody I read that" kind of book?
Oh, well, I'm kind of a geek when it comes to the Bridgerton books. I really love the Bridgerton romances. Those are awesome. Um, what else? I grew up reading Nancy Drew and Sweet Valley High, and what else? Trixie Belden and yeah, those, and Agatha Christie. Those were my favorites. And I used to have my little detective's notebook, so I would read like this mystery novel like a Nancy Drew, and I'd like make my list of suspects and my list of clues and who I think did it and all that stuff. So yeah, I was a big nerd for all of that.
So you always kind of knew this is what you wanted?
Yeah, I guess kind of. It's so funny because it's like once I sat down and started writing The Better Mother, I was like, oh my God, you get that all of a sudden that feeling like you're finally doing what you're always meant to do. And I'm just like, why did I wait so long? Like, why didn't I do this sooner? Um, but I don't know. I'm a big believer in everything happens for a reason. And if I had tried to do it any earlier in my life, it probably wouldn't have worked out, or I would have bombed and given up. And um, if I tried to do it like when my kids were little, like I probably would have driven myself and everyone in my family crazy. Like now, my boys are teenagers. One of them is driving now, and it's like, they don't need me anymore. They lock themselves in their room and like play on their video games and talk to their friends, and they don't need me. So I've got plenty of time to write now. So yeah, I don't know if it would have worked if I'd tried it earlier in my life, but I definitely feel like it was what I was always meant to do.
What do your
And
boys
now
think about it? I'm sorry, Sherry, I'm stealing everything. Now my mind's going a million miles. What do your boys think about their mom being like famous now and doing all the fun things?
well, I think it's more like waiting to see if I'll be famous. Like maybe. It's funny though, because like a lot of his friends follow me on Instagram, and they'll like be like, Ollie, I saw your mom in this post the other day, and stuff like that. Um, it'll be fun. It'll be funny, like when my book launch night comes. That's going to be just the craziest night ever. I can't even comprehend what it's going to be like, and they'll be there, and I don't know. I wonder how they're going to react. We'll see. My my son, he's 15. He started. We got the ARC copies of The Better Mother, and he's not a big reader, which breaks my heart. But it's just that digital age. If it's not on the phone, they don't read it. he read, I think he read like the first two or three chapters though, because he was, you could tell he was really trying, like, I want to support my mom, I'm going to read this book, but he only got like two or three chapters in, and like the first mention of sex in the book, he's just like, ew, mom, ew, ew, and like threw it away. And it's funny because like there's not really any sex in this book. It's all like after the fact. Like she, she might think about it and have a memory of what her night with Max was like, but it's like two sentences, right? And I'm like, well, if you can't take that, you definitely don't want to read my next book because there's a little more in the next one.
Next one's a little bit spicier.
Little bit, not much. Thrillers, we don't. There's not a lot of thrillers that have a lot of spice in them, I guess, because
No.
yeah, it's not always it's not as fun as murder, I guess.
So you mentioned earlier when you first wrote the book, it was very large and then you had to slim it down. How is your process for that? Are you just ruthless and start cutting things, or is it more of a scalpel approach?
Oh my gosh, it's like torture. I don't know. I'm sure it's probably like this for other writers, but it's like every word you write is precious, and every word that you have to cut is like cutting a piece of your flesh out. And you know, we we're not always the greatest judge of our own writing. So like I'm like everything is good. Don't take any of it out, but you have to. So it's really hard. I go back through it many times, each time cutting a little more and a little more. Um, but it's crazy how different the version that is coming to print is from the first version that I wrote of this book. It's completely different. Um, there were some characters that are bad people in the published version that originally started out as good people. I don't I don't know how much I should say. Like, um, certain people got together in the first version of what I wrote, and some of those people end up dying now in the real version. So it's completely different, but I don't know. I love getting feedback on my writing, like even if it's bad, if it's something I can change and work on, and then it ends up being like so much better, I'm glad for that. I think that you kind of have to be like that in today's publishing world to get anywhere, honestly. If you're not open to feedback and if you're not willing to work on it and change it and try it from a different point of view, then you'll probably never get anywhere. And there were times when, yeah, they said, kill this guy, make this good guy a bad guy, this and that. And sometimes I'd have to walk away from it and like cry for a few days and be like, no, but I love it this way. But then I'm like, well, what does it hurt trying to write it a different way? It's not like I have to throw this version away and keep it, but I'll just try it and see how it works. And then once I did, I was like, oh my God, they were right. This is so much better. And so definitely gotta do that. But yeah, it's really hard doing that without feedback. So I definitely love my friends and my beta readers and everyone that reads early versions and gives me their feedback and talks over different ideas with me. Like, like we talk about books that we read. It's just like the most fun thing ever. So I love it.
So do you have a file on your computer of everything that was cut out, or do you let it
Oh
go?
yeah. Oh yeah, I've
Oh.
got like 10 other versions of everything on my computer.
So was it like that for your second book? And I know you're still, writing it, but do you foresee it being similar, that the first version is very different from the final version?
Um, I've had to cut a lot of stuff. This one was even worse. This one was like 150,000 words and like almost 500 pages, and just going back through and cutting, 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 and it's really hard. So not a whole lot has changed so far other than just taking stuff out that, even though I liked it and it was good, just it doesn't make the final cut. And but we'll see. I have to show the new version of my agent now, and then eventually to Crooked Lane or other publishers, and maybe maybe I still have a lot of rewriting to do. I wouldn't be surprised.
Do you think you'll ever write series with, all those ideas in the book, but yet, you got to slim it down to make it more reader manageable? Do you think you'll ever write a series?
I still think about that sometimes, about that first book that I tried to write that takes place at this resort in the Florida Keys, and all these different women that are have reached like a turning point in their life where they have to decide, where do I go from here? They all come to the resort from different places, and it's about what happens to them over the week that they stay at this resort, which is kind of like White Lotus-y, but a lot of it has to do with love, some of it has to do with career. So that's all kind of Ellen Hildebrand-y, as I like to say. But then mix that with something traumatic that happens to everyone at the resort all at the end, and how it changes them. I still think about that sometimes, and how they said, like, you're writing 5 books, you're not writing one book. And so I'm like, well, maybe it would work as 5 books, kind of like in the Bridgerton series, how each book is devoted to a different sibling and how they end up finding love. Like maybe it could work like that. The story of from 5 different points of view of what happens on this night at the resort. So well, I don't know. We'll see.
I have one question. So when you're writing, do you find like the drama, the gossip, the killing, or like what's your favorite part? Which part when you're doing this is like, yes, I'm here.
I love the drama. I definitely do. Like dialogue is one of my favorite parts. Like when people are going back and forth, like the banter or the arguing or stuff like that. I find that so fun. And it's kind of cool how like some of the reviews that have come out of like it felt like a movie in my head. And I'm like, yeah, that's what it's like for me when I'm writing it. I picture that movie in my head, and he's standing here and she's standing here and he says this and his eyes widen, and she gasps or whatever. That's super fun to me, but I also really love the character backstory stuff. Like the better mother is in first person from Savannah's point of view, and I actually tried writing my next book from third person past tense. And seriously, like my only reason for doing that was just to change it up. Because you see those threads on social media where like, oh, I hate books in first person, I hate books in third person, and so I was just like, well, I should always change it up. So, but then both my agent and one of my beta readers was like, it's good, but I feel like if it was from her point of view, like we would connect with her even better. And so I was just like, all right. So yeah, that's one of the things I've been doing lately is rewriting my whole next book from first person point of view of our main character. And yeah, I just love it because just hearing that inner monologue and all their thoughts and what's going through her brain in between each thing she says to this person, that's one of my favorite parts too.
I love
So
inner monologue. I love it. And when I get in a story and you're hearing like what they're thinking but not saying it out loud, oh, I love that part.
especially when it's like, oh, they're smiling on the outside, but then their inner monologue is just like, oh, this person's such an asshole, or like, I just want to reach over there and smack him in the face. I think that's so fun. I guess that says a lot about me, like smiling on the outside, but beware of what's going through my head.
So what books do you like to read?
Um, let's see. You want to take a look at my shelves here? Um, I love yeah, I love thrillers. Let's see. Some of my favorite authors are Carol Goodman is one of my all-time favorites. She's a little older. She's been writing for decades, but I love her stuff. And she's still writing. She just put out Writers and Liars last year, and this year she's coming out with another one. I love her. I love Kara Ruda. I love Lisa Jewell. I love Robin Harding. Um, and there's so many new authors coming out all the time. So I'm looking forward to just reading a ton this year from new authors that I haven't tried before. I just read my first Carter Wilson, Tell Me What You Did. That was amazing. Alice Feeney, she's amazing. Lucy Foley, all that kind of stuff. But I also love some historical fiction. Jennifer Donnelly is one of my favorite historical fiction authors. She wrote this series called The Tea Rose, and it's all it's like an episode of The Gilded Age in New York in the 1880s, and she starts a business and just the whole generational saga of her family. I love stuff like that. World War II stories are fascinating. And then I love my romances. I got into Dream Harbor this year, and it's just, Hallmark movie and a book. And sometimes you just need that cinnamon roll goodness as a palate cleanser.
Yes.
Um, yeah, and Ellen Hildebrand has always been one of my favorite authors because I just love how she can get the family drama and the romance in there, but also such a deep character study where you really get deep into their heads and see what they're thinking and where they're coming from and why they do what it is that they do. And I love that.
All right. Well, Jennifer, thank you for joining us today on One Final Twist. I said in my review that this is meticulously crafted madness, and I will stick with that for the better mother. We are grateful as readers that you trusted us to read it early, because we, Sherry and I especially, take it very serious. It's your book baby, and we're excited to bring those book babies into the world as the best that we possibly can. So to our listeners, please grab a copy of this book. You will not be disappointed. It is a binge read and it's going to mess with you and you're going to want to throat punch at least one person.
One, if not more.
Yeah.
And you'll love all of it.
Thank you
I know this
so
is
much.
but I'm not even sure if I hated the mom more. I think the mom might be my ultimate villain. So,
Yeah, people wait and see.
yeah, yeah. Well,
Thank you
thank you
so
so
much. You
much.
guys write such great reviews. I was scared to show you my book. I'm like, I hope she likes it. But thank you. You guys have been really great.